There comes a time in every life when the noise of the world becomes too loud to bear. The hum of conversation, the endless scroll of headlines, the flood of images and voices all begin to merge into a kind of static. You find yourself yearning for something simpler, something still. It is not that you hate people or wish to withdraw forever. It is that your soul, tired of constant movement, begins to whisper for quiet. This is the beginning of solitude, the moment you recognize the need to step away, not out of rejection of the world, but in search of a deeper connection to yourself. Most of us confuse being alone with being lonely. Loneliness is the ache of absence. Solitude is the presence of one's own being. Loneliness is empty, but solitude is full. It holds space for reflection, creativity, and healing. When you choose to be alone, you are not closing the door on life. You are opening the inner window that has long been shut by noise and distraction. The world fears silence, but silence is where truth begins to speak. Imagine yourself waking before dawn. The city or town around you still sleeps. There is no sound except the soft rhythm of your breathing. In that early hour, the world belongs to no one. It is only you, the cool air, and the quiet. You feel the first touch of calm, the strange freedom that comes when nothing demands your attention. In that silence, thoughts begin to settle like snow, each one falling gently, revealing what has always been hidden beneath the noise. Throughout history, those who shaped human thought sought solitude not as escape, but as a forge for understanding. Machiavelli, after days of struggle and disappointment, would return home, change his clothes, and enter his study to converse with the great minds of the past. He called it his nightly audience with wisdom itself. In those hours of silence, his ideas were not merely read, they were reborn. Isaac Newton, forced into isolation during the plague, turned his gaze inward and discovered the laws that govern the universe. When the world stopped, his mind began to move. Solitude has always been the womb of creation. Yet in our modern age, solitude has become an enemy. We flee from it with every glowing screen. The moment we are left alone, we reach for something. Music, messages, endless feeds, anything to fill the silence. We call it connection, but it is often escape. The quiet can feel unbearable because it holds up a mirror, and in that reflection, we see ourselves without the soft disguise of distraction. Carl Jung once said that the one who looks outside dreams, but the one who looks inside awakens. To look inside, you must first be willing to be alone. When you begin to embrace solitude, you notice something strange. At first, the silence feels heavy, uncomfortable, almost threatening. You become aware of how restless your mind truly is. Thoughts rush in, demanding attention. Memories appear that you had buried under noise. You may even feel the urge to escape back into the world. But if you stay, if you breathe and allow the stillness to settle, you begin to feel a shift. The restlessness fades and a different kind of awareness rises. You start to hear the small, clear voice that lives beneath all the noise. It speaks softly, but it never lies. There is power in this stillness. Blaise Pascal once wrote that all of humanity's problems stem from our inability to sit quietly in a room alone. In solitude, we confront not just our thoughts, but our fears. The fear of meaninglessness, of failure, of being forgotten. Yet those fears lose their edge when you look directly at them. You realize that most of them are shadows cast by other people's opinions. Alone, you begin to see what truly matters, what belongs to you, and what never did. Great teachers throughout history understood the sacred rhythm of withdrawal and return. Moses climbed a mountain alone and came down transformed. The Buddha sat beneath a tree, silent, until understanding dawned. Jesus walked into the desert and returned with clarity. Every journey toward truth begins with solitude, a stepping back before a deeper step forward. When you are alone, the world becomes clearer, not because it has changed, but because your vision has. Solitude is not meant to last forever. It is a cycle, like breathing. You withdraw to inhale clarity, and then you return to the world to exhale what you have learned. Without solitude, your actions lose depth. Without engagement, solitude loses purpose. The art lies in balance, the courage to retreat, and the strength to return. The quiet does not ask you to abandon life, only to meet it more honestly. When you learn to be alone, you begin to discover who you really are when no one is watching. You realize how much of your identity has been built from other people's expectations. In solitude, there is no applause, no judgment, no performance. You see yourself without costume or mask. It can be unsettling at first, but it is also profoundly liberating. You start to remember what you love, what you fear, what you long for, not what you were told to want, but what your heart truly desires. From this place, creativity is born. The artist, the thinker, the dreamer, all draw their strength from moments of quiet. Virginia Woolf once wrote that every woman needs a room of her own. In truth, every soul does. It need not be a physical space. It can be an hour in the morning, a walk under trees, a moment of stillness before sleep. What matters is not where you are, but that you give yourself permission to simply exist without demand or expectation. Psychologists like Rollo May and Carl Rogers spoke of the self that can only emerge in solitude, the authentic self, unshaped by the constant gaze of others. Alone, you learn to trust your own feelings, to see the patterns of your mind, to make peace with imperfection. Solitude heals not by distraction, but by presence. It does not erase pain, but it gives you room to understand it. The Stoic philosophers knew this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote his Meditations not as a book for others, but as a conversation with himself. Epictetus taught that freedom begins when we no longer depend on external things for peace. In solitude, you begin to understand that truth. You see that happiness cannot be given or taken away by others. It grows from within, steady and unbreakable. Kierkegaard once said that the crowd is untruth. To live authentically, you must sometimes step away from the crowd, not in arrogance, but in sincerity. The modern world tells us that solitude is a weakness, that to be alone is to be unloved or incomplete. But the truth is the opposite. When you can stand alone, you become whole. You stop needing the world to confirm your worth. You begin to act from conviction instead of fear. You start to listen, not to the endless voices outside, but to the quiet knowing within.